Welcome to Mindfall, where the questions twist and turn. Dive deep with us, we'll watch ideas burn. Down the rabbit hole we go, chasing thoughts you've yet to know. Mindfall's here, let's start the show.
Hi, and welcome to Mindfall with Mike and Mike. In this podcast, we explore the ideas that take us down the proverbial rabbit hole. We ask and answer the hard questions with the help of our AI search engine.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Mike.
Well, today, Mike, in this episode, we're going to talk about our disposable society.
Yeah, and this is how this works. I'll ask our AI search engine a question about why do we have a disposable society and how do we have a disposable society, and we'll read the responses and ask some further questions and contemplate on the concepts and dive deeper than we think any other podcast has. Mike, you ready to mindfall and dive in on this one?
Let's mindfall, Mike.
All right. So let's go over to our friend ChatGPT. I think we're GPT 5.2 right now. And a prompt that I kicked in was, do we live in a disposable society? And the short answer is yes, but not inevitability? Not inevitably. So, Mike, what does a disposable society mean to you? Before we really go in with chat, what's it mean to you?
I'm telling you, I'm speaking from an experience I'm going through right now. I have a dishwasher, 5 years old. Has a computer in it. 2, as a matter of fact, already failed. And it's frustrating because, one, why do all the appliances and products today have computers in them? For what reason? You know, back in the 1900s when I grew up, dishwashers didn't have computers. And they worked just fine and seemed to last forever, along with your refrigerator, washing machines, and other things. So why now put these computers in here just for them to break down? Because the issue with the dishwasher is the computer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, we all have a garage refrigerator, right?
We do.
Is that garage refrigerator a new one, or is it probably an avocado green one from the 1950s?
I'm not saying mine's that old, but it doesn't have a computer in it, and it's working fine.
It's dead nuts reliable. It's going to work for you, right?
The most you have to do is vacuum out the bottom of it every now and then to get the dust out. That's it.
Yep. The wife went through it a week or so ago. Her phone battery was dying, and it just wouldn't keep a charge. Three-year-old iPhone. Why?
Because they keep wanting you to spend money. That's all.
Yeah.
So where's chat going to lead us today, Mike?
Yeah, let's check and see what chat says. And it's talking about objects like phones, appliances, and furniture, how appropriate. But then it dives into things like disposable labor with gig workers and layoffs as a routine strategy. And then talks about relationships. Do we rely too much on dating apps and transactional networking? Like, instead of really diving deep into relationships with people, just engaging with people for what we need. Then we have disposable information, viral outrage cycles, 24-hour news churn, what's the hottest thing that's on the interwebs. And I'm not even talking about the whole number thing that kids are doing that I don't understand. And then, the infinite scroll, the short form content, just whatever reel you're looking at, whatever app you're using to digest your reels. And then
that 60-second hit to get that dopamine fix.
Yeah. And, AI's got it figured out that 8 seconds. 8 seconds is a video. 8 seconds. And they'll make a video. It's 8 seconds long. It's just enough to grab your attention and make it funny and then move on to the next one. So, even ideas. So, this kind of harkens back to some of the previous discussions we've had about, what is truth. And truth is replaced by what performs well. What is grabbing people's attention. So, how did we get here? What drove us to this point? Chat's saying that a lot of it's driven by capitalism that's optimized for speed, scale, cost reduction, and shareholder return.
Let's pull the string on this. I want to pull the string on this because I honestly believe everything they said right there is true. It's all built on capitalism. Just like going back to your avocado refrigerator, our parents, I don't ever remember them replacing the appliance when I was a kid. And things were built differently. They were built of metal and not cheap plastic. The parts were made simple so it wasn't too complex so it wouldn't break down.
Yeah.
Were they the most energy efficient? No. I want to admittedly say that. But I think I would almost take the than being a little bit more, energy deficient than rather than have to replace it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like your gas guzzler, of years of old. Those cars never really kind of gave us the problems that today's cars give us. Your starter went bad. Oh, you take out the starter, you put in a new starter. Now, God forbid that my car is a starter, you got to take it to the dealership. You're not doing it yourself.
Well, even up to 10 years ago, if you want to stick with that starter was rebuilt.
Oh, yeah.
You would send that out, or you'd redo the brushes, or clean the commutator. It's probably just full of dirt because it's down there in the bottom corner at your engine collecting all kinds of dirt. So you just rebuild the thing. Now you can't rebuild it. You throw it away. It's a sealed package unit. And everything is a tightly controlled sealed package unit. iPhone's getting smaller and smaller, or bit more dense inside the same package. In order to get things to work at the optimal performance rate, they don't want people to touch them, because the moment you touch them, it destroys that performance rate, and they're going to get bashed online for lower quality product.
And when you say, "Oh, I want to get this thing serviced," the amount of hours that someone's going to have to put into service said product, even like an iPhone to remove a battery or what have you, the batteries don't cost that much. The intrinsic parts of an iPhone don't cost that much.
No,
but like you said, they have that thing sealed so tight, and then the screens break every so often. So it's just like you get into a point where do this replacement cost and the labor outcost me replacing it, because for me, I can't use, I don't know what your calculation is, but when something goes past 50% of my replacement value, more times than not, I'm willing to replace it, because I'm just like, well, if I had this for a couple of years, over 50% of the replacement costs, might as well buy a new one, because now I'm on borrowed time.
Yeah. So do you have a car with auto start and auto stop that turns the car on and off? That it go to a stoplight, you pull up the stoplight, the car turns off, right? It's a fuel efficiency thing.
Yeah, one of my cars does that. Yes.
Okay. So, did you know that in the computer of your car, it's monitoring how many times that starter starts and stops, right?
Okay.
It's monitoring the performance, and so that starter has an estimated fixed number of starts and stops. It'll probably last for a lot longer than the fixed number, but there are some manufacturers that are out there that after you pass that fixed number of defined starts and stops where they think that part is going to wear out, it'll start throwing codes, and you'll have a check engine light, or you'll get a notice to go in for service. And so just through the auto start and auto stop, you're causing some more repair to that vehicle, and you're working faster toward the replacement and the upgrade that you're going to have. So it's a built-in system that's designed to make that part disposable.
I would even venture, it's a funny joke between me and you. How many times did you replace spark plug number 3 on my old Honda Accord because it had that variable, the CVT engine or whatever, and it would drop down to using 3 cylinders, but in their infinite genius, they didn't rotate the cylinders around, so it would always burn out that 3rd cylinder.
Yeah. GM, Ford, all the big manufacturers went through that, trying to do the variable displacement so that you can save a little bit more on the highway, and all it does is end up burning up parts.
Yeah.
If we're talking about really living in a world that's disposable, it's about simplicity, right? So the parts that you have, the materials you have, the packaging, it's all there to make everything much more simple and easier to get that product to the consumer. But at the same time, if you get that product to the consumer and that product lasts 50 years, you only sold them one. Perfect example, I'm down here. I'm in my little shop here where I do my recording.
Staple gun.
I picked this up from an estate sale 25 years ago.
It was brand new.
Reliable. It works every time. Just put some new staples in it. It's ready to rock. This thing will never wear out. But that means I don't have to buy another one. This thing, it's an older version, but it's starting to show its life. The battery isn't lasting as long. They're trying to sell me upgrades. Apple went through this whole thing a few years ago where they were starting to slow down the iPhone performance and show battery degradation in order to get you to buy the newer and better version. And it's that defined, planned obsolescence that gets people to come back and come back and come back. But the big question is why? Is it all
Well,
consumerism?
I got to make a profit in these days. We're in a capitalist society. I mean, I thought you were going to reach for a printer cartridge. That's what I thought you were reaching for, because it got to me that every time I needed to replace the cartridges, I'd end up at the store, and I'm like, what? If you get the color one, it was like the three of them were costing over $100. I'm just like, but the new printer costs 125.
Right.
So I was just like, I think I did that like 3 times in a row. And now I have a black and white laser because I'm like, my kids are old enough that they don't really print out color anymore. I'm just like, this is insane.
No, don't print color. No.
I had
Print
a
graph quality.
I had a bricked out color printer here for years because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to spend the money for these stupid ink cartridges.
And early on with the inkjet printers, you could refill them with a syringe and the ink, or you could buy the knockoff cartridges. Then they got smart and put the microchips in the cartridges so that they could only be you could only use a proprietary unit. So Keurig went through the same thing with the K cups. They had people out there that were copying and knocking off the K cups, and they said no. So they started putting a ring in their machine that a little near field communication on the actual K cup, and if it didn't match, then it wouldn't brew your coffee. I get it. They want quality management. They want to make sure the product is delivering the best they can, but they also want to sell you that consumable product, those refills. How do we get people to come back?
It's overall. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it's no different than those subscription services. It's how do I get you to come back?
Yeah.
Before, the BJ's and Santa Club, you want to join the club. Okay, fine. I understood because you'd be able to buy in bulk and kind of do what businesses did back then. But now I'm like, everything is a subscription. You bought this Aura ring that tells you your vitals in your body. You got to pay a subscription. Everything is going to subscription. And then to the point where, all of our streaming services subscription. I think what they're doing to people is that you don't know sometimes how many subscriptions you have. Because it's not like it's a nuisance charge. It's like, we're charging you $3 or $4 a month or whatever. And you're not really paying attention. But when you couple all those together, you could be in the hundreds of dollars with all the subscriptions you have.
Yeah. And we talked about it a little bit in our Gen X episode where we talked about TV and consumerism. And we had to wait for TV. If you missed that extra special episode of Family Ties, you had to wait for the rerun. And by that time, it was already a bygone, and you didn't waste your time. Now it's a direct-to-consumer thing, and you can get that item right to your face, the moment that you want it. So whether it's a streaming service for television, or able to just pick up your phone again and say, okay, I want that product. I want it now. Okay, I want it delivered to my house in 3 hours or less. So how do you do that? You make it quick. You make it fast. You make it cheap. It could be a cheap product and manufactured overseas. We don't even have to talk about who's manufacturing things. But
is everything not manufactured overseas, Mike? If you go to Amazon right now, I want to say 90% of that stuff is from overseas.
Yeah. I mean, and you can expand that to fashion. Fast fashion is all consumer-based and disposable-based clothing. You're supposed to only have the clothing that lasts 2 or 3 times of it being worn. God forbid you wash it, it's going to shrink or not fit right ever again, and then you dispose of it. So fast fashion is a terrible trend of consumerism that is really hitting the market and really hitting landfills. It's terrible because those clothes can't be donated. Nobody wants them. They're crap. They're falling apart. You can't buy a pair of Levi's that's going to last more than a year anymore. It's just how fast, how disposable, how easy can I get it to you and make sure that you like it just enough, you enjoy it just enough that you're willing to buy that thing again, and you feel like you got value out of that little bit of time that you had that product.
We were talking about this, not in the episode. I know you were looking for new windows for your house. I was like, I haven't bought windows in probably 10 years, but I was like, oh yeah, they're about $400 a window. You're like, no, they're about $1,000 a window. And I'm just like, When you think about a window, it's just a piece of glass. Glass doesn't really cost any money. And some vinyl, they don't even make anything out of wood anymore. And
Right.
it's one of those things where I was just like $1,000, but like we've been saying, you're not coming back to that manufacturer, for
No.
another 15, 20 years. So they got to get as much profit as they can on something that should not cost this much. Because even like doors, like if I went looking at a front door, it's like $2,500. I'm like, this is a front door. Why does this cost so much?
Well, and a product like that's got a lifetime warranty. That's lifetime to you and maybe the next owner of the home. So it might be transferable once. So the cost on those products, on the items that aren't as consumable, those costs rise in order to compensate for the consumable products, where you're literally racing to the bottom to see how cheap those can be. But on the analogy of the window, it's not. So you're paying a lot for the window because you're only getting it one time. But that worker, that installer, that's a disposable commodity as well. Those are, you're finding whoever is out there that is willing to work for the least amount of money and get the job done to the minimum quality standard that is required in order to meet a satisfactory install. So you make that window very easy to install. They no longer take all the molding off. They don't do any of that. They'll go in and they'll cut out around your existing window, slide your old window out, and you put a new window in, and you lose a little bit of daylight around it, but it's literally just dropping it into the frame and into your opening. Okay.
Right.
So that means, yes, you can have a qualified installer do that product, but how consumable is that qualified installer? If they mess up, replace them, bring somebody else in, have them sit through 8 hours of online training, maybe a little bit of yeah, and you move on. And whether it's a server or waitress, or your delivery driver, your delivery drivers, a gig economy, they're all disposable. You don't have your milkman that's bringing your milk every time. You have a different delivery driver. It's coming from Walmart to bring you your Walmart delivery if you use that subscription service, or Instacart, or whatever you're using.
Even Prime, it's rare that, those jobs, those people, from what I understand, working out like Amazon, they don't last.
No.
Somebody can do for 6 months and they get burnt out and they leave. But they pay so well that the jobs always get filled because of how much they get paid. They're throwing away the people because they're like, I'm not going to invest in this. Is not going to be your career. This is just a temporary job. So well, this all being said, I want to go back to chat when you get your point across.
It's a minimum quality product that's shown as a high quality product that lasts only a certain amount of time before either it physically burns out, or the quality burns out, or it's ready to be just cycled through to something else. Whether it's a person, a product, or a subscription, you're only willing to have that product for as long as you absolutely need to before they're going to try to sell you a new one or replace it with something else that you don't necessarily you don't need. It's just how quickly can we get something in your hands,
right?
So we've talked about a lot of this, and I've kind of skipped down into the discussion of why do we focus on it. And humans, we can resist that disposability. We can minimize the amount of consumerism that we have in things and value what we already own and stop beating the crap out of it. If we keep what we have a little bit tighter, stop trying to compete with the Joneses, stop trying to make sure that we have the biggest light show at Christmas time, and we just focus on what we have. We're not trying to see how much better we can be than everybody else. We're good for ourselves, and that means that we don't rely on that consumerism. We rely on the reliability of something, and we're willing to take the time to fix it.
I feel like, again, going back to that dopamine hit, everybody wants the newest, shiniest thing. It does become more of like the marketing has been becoming more pointed to say, oh, you looked at this item. I saw that you had put something in your cart. Hey, you could save 10% if you buy it today. It's just the way the system is set up now that it's making it like giving you a feeling like if I don't buy this right now, I'm gonna have to pay more. They
Yeah.
don't say, "Oh, I got to get this right now." I mean, we see this right now during the holiday seasons where everybody's sending you some sort of coupon or something, and then it's funny because when you look, if you go back in time, they jack up the prices slightly just to give you a coupon to save money that you're paying the same price you would have paid for it regular price last month or 2 months ago. You know?
Right. Right. And why not double down on that? You know, hey, if you buy this product, we'll knock 10% off of the first product and 25% off the other product. Now you've got two things you didn't necessarily need because you felt like you were getting a deal in all of it. So, and maybe it is a consumerism based obsession that we have, but do we hit an inflection point where that consumerism is taken so far that it kind of overruns us, and to the point where almost we end up with a shock effect of there's nothing quality enough to last long enough that we need it to be reliable long enough.
I think what's happening too is with the current rate of inflation in our country, people are going to have to make some choices like, yeah, I want the new hot thing, but, I really can't afford that. Because it goes back to our other conversation about debt, where the United States is, over $1 trillion in debt because people keep putting stuff on their credit card. But it does get to a point like, look, I can't afford this. I want it, but I can't afford this. And now I'm going to dive into a little bit. How do I now fix this? And then people like Tesla or John Deere or whatever, you can't fix this. It has to be done by a John Deere certified repair person. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to even sell you the parts. Tesla does not sell their parts like that. No. John Deere doesn't. And there's a whole other bunch of companies that are doing the same thing, that they're going to control it. Like, I'm going to hit you on the front side, and if you want this thing fixed, you're going to have to come see me to fix it.
That's the whole right to repair argument,
Yep.
Buy the product as is, where is, and if you want to maintain it over its life cycle, you have to go back to that vendor, and they're the only ones that are qualified to make the repairs and upgrades that are necessary. So you're buying a printer from Tesla, and you can't put non-Tesla ink cartridges in it. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You can't put knockoff parts in that car. You can't go to Rock Auto or AutoZone and go pick up the part you need for that vehicle and make the repairs that you need. And that's even saying that you were qualified to make those repairs.
But if it's already broken, Mike, it's already broken. So I can't break it any worse. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. But to that end, let's talk about the window. And granted, windows have changed. Now they're all glass-filled panes, things like that. But let's just say that if you were 20, 30 years ago and you had an old double pane window or single pane window, and that window broke, do you know how to replace that window? Or even simpler, something breaks your screen on your window. Do you know how to replace the screen on your window?
I probably could figure that one out. Okay. And I have broken a window, but then at that time I took it to a carpenter or whatever, and they replaced the pane of glass, and I think it was like $20 or $30. It wasn't that much money.
Right. But the point is that those that are capable of doing the repair are economically segregated from those that are consuming the product. And so our consumerism and our disposable society has caused further segregation of our class system in the United States, at least, where you're economically segregated into a different community and geographically separated into a different community as a result from the people with a higher consumer rate. So your blue collar people who are able to fix their washer when it starts squeaking or a belt blows on it, they live in a different community than the people who have that high end washer that has 3 computers in it, and it sends them a text when your wash is done.
You're saying that those people are, when you say economically segregated, you say the guys who used to repair things, they don't live in your neighborhood anymore. So you're less likely to go to your neighbor to say, hey, I'm having a little bit of issue here. You think you can help me fix this washing machine? Opposed to, I'm just going to call somebody. Yeah.
Perfect example. He got, what do we get? A few inches of snow a week or so ago, right?
Yeah, not too much.
Okay. We're both in the mid-Atlantic. That means the world shuts down. Well, I'm a fix-it kind of guy. I love to fix things. I've built cars for years, as you know, and I like to get my hands dirty. Well, I also have other hobbies, and I went out and I bought this side by side, a used side by side to use on to go hunting and things like that. When I went to go pick it up, the guy threw in a snowblower. He said, "I don't want it. If you can fix it, you can have it." It was a mid-grade 2-stage snowblower. The tire popped off the bead. He said, "I can't get it started." 20 minutes after I got it home, I had it running. Okay, and so it ran rough, so I pulled the carburetor off, cleaned the carburetor out, put it back on, put the tire back on the bead. I sold it for $150 the day of the snowstorm. I profited a little bit on people's need, but I was able to fix it where he threw that product away.
Right.
All right. And you see in the springtime, you'll go up and down the streets and you'll see old either riding mowers or push mowers on the side of the road marked free because somebody put it away, didn't do what they needed to do, didn't maintain that product, and it's cheaper and easier to throw it away than it is to fix it, at least in their own head. In all honesty, if they drained the gas out or run it till it was dry, it would have been fine. It's just a little bit of ethanol that gummed up the carburetor. Go on Amazon, buy a $12 carburetor, throw away the old carburetor, a consumable product, or take time and clean it. It's up to you. But you can have that product last, or you can just go to Home Depot and buy yourself the newest, best, and brightest push mower that, to compete with the Joneses next door.
I think, and we had talked about this in another podcast, part of it goes that we've taken the shops out of the schools. So when you had those shops, me and you both went to head shop class, it made you kind of explore, like, hey, let me take this thing apart. Let me tinker, Like I said, my dishwasher, I took it apart. You know what I'm saying? I'm waiting on the computer chip to come because I'm like, this is not that hard. But people are afraid to do that because it's, they didn't get those experiences, that we got as a Gen X.
We look at it and say, what's the worst that could happen? I break
it. Already broke. It's already broke. It's already broke. You take it apart. If you get those parts in, you can't fix it. Then you take those parts back out. You return it. Those parts, get your money back, and take that thing out and buy another one. But the amount of money I'm saving by doing this is, I'm like, I don't feel like spending $700 on a new dishwasher where I could fix it for $125.
Yeah. Oh, I know. My water heater went up. Did your water heater really go up, or did the element in it just burn up, or you didn't replace the sacrificial anode in it? And,
I don't want to talk about that one.
And you need to do maintenance, and maintenance is something that we just don't do anymore. We don't maintain things. We replace them. We throw them away. We put them in the landfill. We have a global crisis of trash where we are shipping trash to China by the shipload, and their cost for labor is so low that they can sort through the trash, separate the metal, plastics, and papers if they really want to, and recycle that material and sell it back to us if we want, or just dispose of it and put it into Three Gorges reservoir, and who knows? We're to the point where we're filling up our landfills faster than we can find new landfills because we're just creating disposable product.
Well, that's a topic for a whole nother discussion because really we do have with this disposable society concept. I mean, when I went over to Europe, I found that they separate their trash. Their recycling is way more efficient than what we have here.
Oh, yeah.
We do mixed recycling, which is glass, paper, and everything, cans, whatever. Single stream. And from what I've heard, and maybe not my county, but I've heard there have been places where they're claiming, we're recycling, and they're just sticking it into the landfill.
Yep.
And it might be a cleaner trash because you don't have the bio in there with it, but they've landfilled that. And I'm just like, back when a few years ago on the military base, they had the waste energy plant.
Yep.
And they got rid of it. And I'm just like, why did we get rid of this? I mean, I know they were trying to run an experiment to see if it was worthwhile to do, but it's like, it was a perfect way to take some of this waste and turn it into a viable product. But
and even at the industrial scale, your products wear out, and instead of maintaining them, you shut that facility down, you scrap it, and you build a new one. So that's at a large industrial scale. So, okay, so a few a few products or components of that facility might have broken down over time. Maybe it was a boiler, maybe it was the furnace that cooked everything, maybe it's some of the integrated piping. Okay, can you put it on the sideline for a few months, or have redundancy built into the system such that you don't have to take that offline and shut it down permanently? Because once it's off, it's off. Who's going to want to turn it back on? Out of sight, out of mind. You're going to lose that investment. Nobody's going to want to keep it around if it's not producing.
You had said something to me, and it made me think, and it actually made me laugh a little bit, because I was just like, man, he's right. Whereas we had a conversation about how like all the new fast food restaurants are just these boxes, and they could be easily swapped out and rebranded into something else. And it kind of makes me think, like, when we're talking about these large scale manufacturing companies and all that type of stuff, it seems like everything wants to be modular. So that way, hey, this product is no longer, people don't want this thing anymore, we're not creating this anymore. Then we can modularly take out that equipment, put something else in there, and keep it pushing, but the building itself is reused.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it seems like when you said that, I just saw there was a Qdoba by my house, and they're swapping it out now to be a Dave's Hot Chicken. And I'm like, all they're doing is they took down the signs, and it's easy peasy.
Yep. Maybe upgrade a couple pieces of kitchen equipment based on health code requirements, but boom, 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 boom. How quickly can we get that facility back open and back online?
Yeah, they'll probably take out the seating, which was all movable anyway, just to be branded for their stores. The space itself is going to be reused.
And that all comes back to our base argument that they're trying to see how quickly they can get a product into your hands for consumption and get you out the door so they can bring another consumer in. So that Qdoba probably didn't last because it was not as profitable as it could have been in that market. They might have already oversaturated.
It was across the street, and another Mexican spot was up the street. So they just couldn't maintain because they had too much competition.
So you want to take that to the bigger scale. Look at how many distribution facilities are in our geographic area. There are so many of them, and you'll drive by one day, and it's an Amazon Prime facility. You'll drive by 2 days later, and it belongs to a trucking company. Wait, time out. All they did was rebrand that box. And because somebody else figured out how to get that product to you faster so that you can consume it faster so that they can go to the next consumer even faster so that they can absorb it faster. It comes down to the almighty buck.
I just feel like we are in a society now. We just talked about appliances, phones, cars, nothing lasts. We throw away everything. To me, it would be an interesting question to ask Chad to say, how long will it take for the world to be consumed by its own trash? It just seems like, in the United States, we have a lot of land, a lot of open space, but, and then when you have all this stuff, you have to do things so it doesn't leach into the soil, create, because you're going to create methane. You're just going to have a whole bunch of other issues. How long is that going to take? Because we have to do a better job about, protecting our environment, because if we don't, we're not going to have an environment.
I like to think in pop culture that's the very premise of WALL-E. The Pixar movie WALL-E, where we were such a consumerist society that we trashed up the planet with all of our disposable products to the point where we had to leave the earth. We had to find somewhere else to live. So, okay, if we live in a consumable society, how long before we live in a trashed up world like in the movie WALL-E? Okay, well, we're not on a straight line to WALL-E. We're kind of a curved path that could resemble parts of it. And I get it. The movie's a bit of satire. It's talking about how consumable we are and it highlights some of the key features. But we're already producing, look at this, producing 2.3 billion tons of waste per year. And if we follow our current path, we're going to be at almost 4 billion tons by 2050. Where's that going to go? The products don't break down. They're not recyclable. They're single-use plastics. There's stuff that isn't recyclable. E-waste is the fastest growing waste stream. You can't easily recycle that stuff. We're not there. We're not going to be in WALL-E in 2075, but
Oh, we'll be. You know what we'll be? We'll be the Jetsons.
Yeah.
We'll be on elevated buildings and flying cars. You know.
Yep. You know, in Wall-E, humans don't walk, they don't choose, they don't fix, they don't notice anything. Okay, how different is that from what we do today? Navigation apps erode our spatial memory. The algorithms choose what we look at. Subscription models remove ownership. Pair skills vanish. Physical inactivity rises. Okay, so the movie's a satire talking about the consumerism and the disposable nature of society, and it probably took it to the nth degree, but is it wrong?
But everything you just mentioned, we are on that path of destruction for that. That's exactly where we're headed towards.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I know movies are created to open people's eyes and to get them to think about things, but if you follow that natural trend, we're gonna get there. And we only have one, beautiful blue marble floating in space. And Elon hasn't figured out how to get us to live on Mars yet. So what are we going to do? Are we going to destroy ourselves either through trash production that's going to take over and offset our agricultural capability? Is it going to pollute our oceans? We're going to end up with, the tire fire in Kuwait? It's 900 acres of tires that randomly catches fire because it's sitting in the Kuwaiti desert. That type of pollution going to create temperature changes, or I'm not going to say the global climate change because that's such a charged subject in and of itself. But will we do something that even on the short term could change the way our atmosphere interacts with the rest of the world? And it only takes about a year. We saw it results of volcanoes in the past and creating mini ice ages where a volcano erupted, grayed out the atmosphere for 18 months, dropped global temperatures, and it took 2 decades to recover?
I think we are in some interesting times. Whenever you're talking, I was just thinking about, it's also going to be a strain of natural resources because you keep pulling off the resources, turning them into something else. Well, where are you going to get the resources from? That's going to kind of force you to recycle, reuse. And I do think that we're going to get to a point where it's going to get bad enough that we're going to have to figure out a better way, because, back in the day, it occurs in some states like New York and Maine, some Vermont, I think, you get a can or a bottle, you got a deposit that goes in with that, and then you got to go turn that in to get your money back. And if we could do some more programs like that and be more cognizant of what we're doing instead of just throwing that away, I'm done with that. I think we could head off some of these issues, but as it stands right now, we are in a disposable society and we want things fast, from our food to our packages to everything, and all we want to do is get it, use it, throw it away.
Something's going to break. The dam has to break somewhere in order to get us to change our minds. And consumerism is dangerous. We're creating a consumable product here, but hopefully through the discussion that we're having, we're not encouraging a greater amount of waste or disposition of product that doesn't need to be disposed of.
So hopefully somebody somewhere takes what we're talking about, thinks about it, maybe they're another person that's going to take some action.
Well, I tell you what we will accept as disposal is if people want to join us on Patreon, they can join us and maybe get some extra content out of us and join one of our tier levels and throw out some comments, maybe have some live streams here coming up soon. But that's the type of disposable stuff that I'm willing to accept. If you got disposable income, I think Mike and Mike can handle taking care of that to give you some more products. And hey, if you got some ideas for future podcast episodes, send them to us at mindfall.podcast@gmail.com. Mike, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Mike, I just think that, we as a people, citizens of this earth, we probably got to do a little bit better, and as much as, capitalism as being in, the United States, and, that's fine and dandy, but sometimes I think that money is not everything, What are we leaving behind for the future generations, or what are they going to say about us?
Yep. So, in the immortal words of Simon and Garfunkel in the 59th Street Bridge song, slow down, you move too fast. You gotta make the morning last, just kicking down the cobblestones, looking for fun and feeling groovy. Mike?
That's an obscure reference right there. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Just take your time, slow down, smell the roses, and take a look at that product before you throw it away. Is it something I can fix and keep going?
Right.
All right, Mike. Hey, it's been great talking to you. Look forward to talking to you in the next episode. And hey, folks, if you got any thoughts, send them our way. We'd love to have your feedback, your comments. Give us a 5-star rating in your podcast app of choice, and we'll be here next time. Mike, it's good talking to you.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to Mindfall, where the questions twist and turn. Dive deep with us, we'll watch ideas burn. Down the rabbit hole we go, chasing thoughts you've yet to know.